Hello, everyone. My name is Ricky Hill, and I'm the e-recruiter and engagement specialist here at the University of California, Merced. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're here to have a new student and family town hall. We do have some great speakers ready to answer your questions this evening. Right now, I'd like to give you a couple of quick tips before we get started. If you would like to adjust your audio settings, you can do so in the lower left corner of your screen. Go ahead and click on that button and make the adjustments as you see fit. If you would like to adjust the size of your window, at the top of your screen, you should see an option there to click on that says View Options. You can adjust your screen either full size or something smaller to your preference. Also, we definitely hope that you join us for the question and answer session tonight, and you can do so by clicking on that Q&A button at the lower portion of your screen. You'll see a dialog box appear, and you can send us your question at that time. Right now, we would like to go ahead and kick off our event. I would like to go ahead and send this over to the Vice Chancellor of Student Affairs, Dr. Charles Nies.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this opportunity for us to give you some updates on what's happening at UC Merced. But before I do that, I just want to take a moment and congratulate all of our new students that are part of this call tonight. You have worked really hard. You have accomplished amazing things. This pandemic has thrown all of us for a little bit of a curve as we try to figure out how to navigate the spring. But I want to congratulate you on all that you have accomplished. Super excited that you are joining UC Merced as we look forward to welcoming you as part of the Bobcat family. Tonight, we're really going to focus on some updates on how the campus is preparing for you as students as you get ready to start your journey at UC Merced. Talk about the preparation for classes, talk about on-campus living, talk about how we are being thoughtful and mindful about ways to support you in your journey and your transition to UC Merced. So that is a big part of our focus, and we're going to do some big picture overviews first before we open it up to you to ask questions that you might have of us so that we can make sure that part of this evening's opportunity is to help you make that, have that information that's really important for you as you move forward and transition to UC Merced. So super excited that you're all here and ready to get started. Want to let you know that, as you know, UC Merced, as well as all of the other UC campuses, will be open and we will be up and running in the fall and doing instruction. We know that part of that instruction, however, is going to be in a mixed way that we'll be delivering the courses for students in the fall. Some of our courses will be in person. Some of our courses will be hybrid models, meaning that part of that might happen in person and part of it will happen online in a remote environment. As well as some of our classes, we may offer the opportunity for students to take 100% remote if that is the choice. We know that we have to make some adjustments in the physical environment. And part of that is because UC Merced's commitment, our priorities as we move forward with all of our planning, is first and foremost the health and safety and well-being of all members of our community. You as our students coming to our campus, as well as the faculty and staff that are there to be part of this educational journey with you. That's our priority. Our second priority then is your success and student success. And that will be a big part of what we do as we make decisions on how the campus will reopen for you in August as we get ready to welcome you to UC Merced. With that said, as I started to talk about, we know that we might have to change some of the physical way that we're able to operate the campus. We have a couple lecture halls on campus. We don't have those huge, large lecture halls that you might see on some other institutions. Our largest room on campus houses 370 students, but we know that we won't be able to offer those lectures with 370 students. So it is all likely that if you have classes that might have a lecture component to it, that we will be recording those lectures and you will have an opportunity to view those at your leisure and to get the information that a faculty member is providing through that lecture format. We'll then have students have discussion groups and the opportunity to get together in smaller groups. We know that that's a real powerful learning environment for students. So that might be part of the way that we do this hybrid model, this opportunity for you to watch lectures online at your own leisure, but then to get together in small groups of students to be able to interact with and ask good questions facilitated by a faculty member or a graduate student to help you really understand the material. Some of our classes are already naturally small. If you are taking a writing class for us or one of our first year seminars, all of those are already designed to be small environments. And so we will continue to make sure that we are honoring the need to create physical distance in that space. And so we will be looking at how we structure those classrooms. And so it might be that you are in a classroom that normally would seat 50, but there's only 20 of you in that space, to make sure that we accommodate and create that distance. All of that will be part of the way that we're making sure that will be set up and ready for you to go in a safe environment. We will be expecting that all students wear face coverings as part of the way that we can help keep our overall campus safe. And that is part of our commitment to all being in this together and all doing this work collectively as a way that we were making sure that the campus is a safe environment for everybody who'll be on it. We will also then be looking at different ways that we will be housing students. And we're going to talk a little bit more. I've got Martin Reed here, who's our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Life and Residential Education, to talk about that on-campus experience, because we will be prioritizing you as our new students as part of that. But we'll be thinking about how we actually set up and structure that experience as well. Maybe only having one student to a room or two students to a room. All of that will be part of the way that we want to make sure that we are creating a physical environment that supports your learning, but also supports that health and safety of everybody on campus. We'll still have our dining center open, and they're continuing to make all of the precautions necessary to make sure that that's a safe environment as well. So that will become really important for us as we move forward, as well as then our student involvement and opportunities for you to continue to be engaged in the life of the university. We've got our Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students, Jonathan Grady, here. He's going to talk a little bit more about the different ways that we can help support you and make sure that those questions that are those opportunities for you to really be involved in the life of the university happen, and that you can be engaged and have some of those great opportunities. So all that is part of our planning. We have a planning group that meets on a daily basis that looks at how we will set up the campus and make the campus ready for you and welcome you in August when you come to join us. I do want to mention that there might be individuals who still don't feel comfortable, even in August, coming and physically being on the campus. We hope that you will still be a student at UC Merced. In fact, we're planning on you still being a student at UC Merced. But we will make accommodations so that those individuals who may not feel comfortable being on campus can take those courses in the fall semester remotely, so that we can support you in those choices that you want to make. But we know, however, that that journey and that connection to the university often starts with being physically on the campus itself. And that's why we are doing everything possible to make sure that that can happen, and happen in a way that is safe and healthy for everybody that will be part of that community. The campus works really closely with the Merced County Department of Public Health. We take a lot of our directions from that department as they look at the overall health and well-being of the university. I have to say that one of the advantages we have of being part of the University of California is we are connected to an amazing medical system, and that is the University of California's medical centers. We have 5 teaching hospitals and medical centers with some of the best researchers in this area that are connected to the University of California. And those individuals are helping to inform a lot of the work that we do, and helping us to make sure that our health center on campus is set up and ready to provide all the services that you might need, both in those normal health services that we would provide, as well as to make sure that we're able to do testing on campus and help to respond should you feel that you have any symptoms connected to COVID-19. All of that is in partnership with the larger University of California Health Center, in particular, the University of California, San Francisco, that has a branch campus just down the road in Fresno. And as we continue to partner with them and lean on their expertise and their knowledge, they're working closely with our faculty and with our staff to make sure that we can provide the best services and support for you as we move forward. So all of that is going to be part of that experience as we kind of do this a little bit differently and respond to the pandemic that we all are facing with and navigating. But I want to just make sure that you all know that our priorities, as I said, are your health and your well-being, as well as that of everybody on our campus. And then secondly, our priorities are your success and the way that we can create the best educational experience and journey for you at UC Merced. So that is just a quick overview of some of the planning that's happening. But I want to turn it over to Dr. Jonathan Grady. Jonathan is our Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students, as well as to Martin Reed. Martin is our Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Life and Residential Education, just to share a little bit more about what you can expect when you come to campus and be part of our community. Martin, we'll start with you, and if I can turn it over to you to talk a little bit more about as we get ready to open the campus and on-campus housing.
Thank you, Charles. Greetings, everyone. It is a pleasure to be with you here tonight. My name is Martin Reed, and as Charles said, I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Life and Residence Education. I am working with our residence education team as well as our stakeholders to start developing new updated policies and procedures that will create welcoming and engaged residential learning environments for the fall 2020. A part of that is updating all our policies and procedures. As Charles said, our number one priority is to ensure the safety of the campus, safety of your scholars while they're living on campus, and trying to balance that safety with their interactions and making connections with their suite mates and people who live in the building, but also as they go to class, just creating behavioral expectations that will help them be safe while they're living in the building, interacting with individuals inside and outside the classroom. So the residence education team, again, is working with all of our campus stakeholders to update the guest policy, to update how we're doing programming and events in the residence halls, again, to practice physical distancing, safety, and that is our number one priority, as well as, again, their academic success. What can we do in the residence hall to make sure that students can still use the study rooms, the computer labs? What do we need to do to add extra cleaning in the building? All of those things we're just constantly working on for the month of June and July. This month in June, we are starting to think about how we're gonna do room assignments. And you might've gotten some correspondence via email or through regular mail, but the assignments team is starting to look at room selection or roommate process, and hopefully they will get information from your scholars to make some decisions about how to assign students to their preferred room type, if that's a single or a double, and which building they want to be living in. We're going to do our best to accommodate everyone's first choice, and we'll see in probably late July is when you should expect to get your room assignment. And when we look in August, August is when we plan on doing the move-in process. This year, we're looking at a move-in process that will occur over several days. In the past, we used to do move-in over a 4-day process. This year, it could take at least 8 days to move everyone in safely, depending on what the final decisions are with the Merced County. They will give us some guidance to ensure that there's proper physical distancing in the parking lot as you make your way into the building using the elevators and using the staircases. We just need to ensure that there's appropriate physical distancing as students move their personal belongings and get settled into their room. And we expect that the move-in process could start as early as August 14th. Classes should begin instruction around August 26th. So again, it's almost a 2-week move-in process, and we will probably have assigned move-in times and days, but we will offer families some flexibility. If you can't make your assigned move-in day and time, we will try to work with your schedule and find a time that works for you, but also, again, ensures safety of the community. In addition, we are looking at setting aside some isolation rooms and some safe rooms. So should anyone need to self-quarantine for 14 days, they won't need to go home back to Southern California or go back to Oakland or Berkeley. We're just going to accommodate them on campus in a safe room where they can still continue to get meals 3 times a day, snacks as needed. They can still have interaction via social media with their friends on campus or outside. And we're going to make sure that all their needs are met personally, but also that if they need to continue to participate in coursework, that they have all the resources available to them on campus while they self-isolate. But we are working on those protocols as we speak. And at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Jonathan Grady to let you know what's going on in his world.
Thanks, Martin, and good evening, everyone. As the Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students here at UC Merced, my role is to advocate for your needs, to help connect you to various resources on campus, and to ensure that you all have the academic, personal, and career resources needed to not only succeed, but to also thrive. We are all experiencing a collective traumatic and tumultuous experience right now, as Dr. Nies stated earlier. You may be feeling overwhelmed. You may be afraid. You may be clinging to certainty in the midst of so much uncertainty, and you may be exhausted. However, UC Merced's power lies in our commitment to a culture that is founded on unity and respect, and a community that affirms the inherent dignity and value of every person. We prioritize transformative justice and the intersectional practices of love, support, and community. And we continue to provide a variety of academic, personal, and career resources to ensure, again, that you all are thriving. From virtual to in-person resources, we will continue to provide a plethora of resources. Our involvement, our Office of Student Involvement, will continue to plan a variety of different events and activities. We're having a virtual dance party next week, actually, for our summer scholars, to concerts and having music and artists come. We're having a spoken word competition this summer that's all virtual. In the fall, we're planning on small in-person gatherings as well as virtual events. So there will be ways to engage and to be involved in our community, both in person as well as online. Personally, there are also resources related to wellness, whether it's our counseling and psychological services unit that will provide services in person as well as virtual, as well as academic resources from tutoring to mentorship programs, all in person as well as virtual. So please know that the university will continue to provide resources to meet your needs and to ensure that you're able to thrive. It is also important to note that as part of our culture, we check on each other, we support each other, we show empathy, and in times of need, we help each other rise like the Egyptian phoenix from its own ashes, renewed and strengthened. Lastly, I'll end with my hope for you all. My hope is that for you all, that you recognize that there is something inside of you that is greater than any obstacle. My hope for you is that you also hold each other with grace during these times. And as Maya Angelou once stated, my hope for you is to just be who you are and to astonish a mean world with acts of kindness. I hope again that you remember that you are brilliant, you are powerful, and we know that you will continue to revolutionize and change the world around you. At UC Merced, you matter and we care about you. And if there's anything that you need, please, 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 please do not hesitate reaching out.
Thanks, Dr. Grady. We really wanted to showcase both the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Student Services and Residential Education, Martin Reed, as well as our Associate Vice Chancellor and Dean of Students, Jonathan Grady, just to let you know that this team is here putting together the plans and the thoughts on how to support you. Now, there are a lot of questions coming up in the Q&A section about, is the campus really going to be open? And yes, the campus is really going to be open. And yes, we will have students moving into our residence halls. We are prioritizing our new students for those assignments in those spaces. It may be that we're not able to fill every bed in the way that we had traditionally done so in the past. We may have to reduce the number of students that are living in some of our spaces. But all of that is still part of that commitment to making sure that you are safe and healthy as you move into our on-campus housing. But that will be available. As we shared, however, there might be some students who don't feel comfortable physically relocating for the fall semester. We will prioritize you if you want to then move on to campus in the spring semester, it's having that opportunity to do so. If you do cancel that housing contract, we will allow you to do that. We're not going to charge any cancellation fees for decisions that you make based upon your overall well-being and what makes sense for you at this point in time. But know that we really think that the opportunity to live on campus and to be a part of the campus community is an important part of that journey, and we hope that you all will consider doing that. In the next few days, you should get an email communication from someone from our Bobcat Advising Center. That is our advising center that helps and supports all of our first-year students and our new students as they come onto the university campus. they will start working with you around course selection. All of that happens then in the month of June. So in the next few weeks, you'll have an opportunity to meet with your academic advisor and start those conversations about your journey at UC Merced. By the end of June, you will be able to start registering for classes so that you will know at the end of this month the courses that you plan on taking and will be a part of your journey here at UC Merced when you start in August. We also are going to be moving our orientation experience online and virtually, and we encourage all of you to do that. We've created a great online program for you and hired a whole group of our continuing students to be part of those conversations, to share their insights and their knowledge with you about transitioning to UC Merced. So please take a moment to go to our orientation webpage if you haven't already registered and submit that registration form to participate in new student orientation. As well as if you haven't signed up for housing, the opportunity still exists for you to submit that contract so that we can make sure to include you in that on-campus housing as we get ready to do some of those housing assignments. In all of that information, there's an opportunity for you to go ahead and make some of those choices, as Martin shared with you, about where you might live and what kind of experience you want to have, if you've got roommate choices. All of that is part of what we're going to be sending out to you and helping to coordinate with you as you look at relocating and moving onto campus. So all of that is a really important piece. If there is a question, and I'd like to share it right now that someone put in here. If we choose to stay at home, how will it affect our costs? Really, if you choose to stay at home, the cost of instruction is the same. We still have the same faculty and the same support services and everything to support you. What changes is that you won't be living on campus, and so we wouldn't bill you for those room and board rates. You need to know, however, that financial aid is awarded based upon what's called your total cost of attendance. And so we look at how much it might cost you to be a student at UC Merced, and we put together a financial aid award that is based upon that total cost of attendance. If you don't live on campus, then we take that out of your total cost of attendance because you would be living at home. That may result in an adjustment to your financial aid award. So I just want to make sure that people know that we are under federal guidelines only allowed to award financial aid up to your total cost of attendance. And so if that changes, that does require us to adjust that cost of attendance. As I said earlier, we're hoping that students will be living on campus and living in our residence halls, and we will have classes that will be in person. Part of what we're looking at is how we might coordinate what we're calling cohorts of students, so that you might take a series of courses with a group of 20 students who you also live with. That becomes a really important element for us to kind of reduce a little bit the number of students that someone might have come in contact with, and that helps us to manage if someone does get sick, and just kind of how we can help mitigate the potential spread of the virus. And so we're looking at ways that we might have you take a group of courses with a set group of colleagues that you could live with and study with and work with as you transition to the university. Some of those will be embedded in our living learning communities. And if you haven't looked into our living learning communities, we have great opportunities for our new first-year students to live in campus community environments with peers that share similar interests or come from similar backgrounds. All of this has shown to really help with students in persisting and graduating from the university and within 4 years. In particular, our Afro Hall, which supports our Black students and our African American students, has shown a great resource to really support students in their transition. We have several programs within our School of Natural Science that are open to students from all majors that include environmental and sustainability as one of those, the Rachel Carson House, or Beyond the MD for students who are interested in going into some form of the health profession. So please take a moment and look at those living learning communities as well. That's a great chance for you to become connected to what is going on. Martin, if you may want to touch on this a little bit, but one of the questions that came in here is, will students be able to choose their own roommate? So if you could just cover that again a little bit about how that process works, that'd be helpful.
Yes, thank you, Charles. Yes, so what Housing Services is doing right now, they're going to open up the housing portal. It might be open already. It's this week or next week. Students will log into their housing portal, and that's when you can read student profiles. You can create a profile for yourself. You can read other people's profiles, and based on what you want to do, you can reach out and connect with individuals through the portal and make connections. And then if you decide to room with someone that you want to room with, that you met with on the portal, you can easily, through that portal, there'll be some instructions for you to say, I want to live with Anthony, and this is his name. And then Anthony has to do the same thing. You guys have to match. And if there's a match, they will assign you to live with each other in a double room.
Great, thanks for answering that. We also got a question about the food, and would the food still be in buffet style, or how are we structuring and setting up our dining center? We will have servers, so there will be people behind counters that are constantly going to be changing gloves and taking all of those health-related precautions into place to make sure that as we serve food, we're doing that in a healthy sort of way. We've put in place different kind of protectors, much like you might have seen if you've gone into a grocery store recently and there's a plexiglass screen in front of you. All of that is part of what we'll be doing with the staff that'll be serving the food. We're also trying to create a lot more outdoor seating areas. We have beautiful weather here in Merced. Might get a little warm for those of you that are used to coastal climates, but we have this great weather and an opportunity for students to enjoy their food outside. And so we're going to create more outdoor seating areas as a way to again, ensure that we're thinking about safe ways for students to be able to get their food and get it through safe food handling practices, as well as then enjoy their food with their friends, but possibly out in an open air environment. So all that is part of what we're looking at doing as we continue to support the on-campus Women Board Plan as we move forward. I'm going to read another letter that we have here regarding the health insurance. I was told to wait until the first week of July before making any changes. Currently, I have Medi-Cal with Kaiser. Do you know if it is covered in the area around the school? And so that's a good question around health insurance. There's a health insurance waiver process for students who want to waive out of the health insurance because you have coverage already. We do accept Medi-Cal as part of the way that you can have that health insurance matched. But it's really important for you to work with your county as well as here with Merced County. And we'll help you through this process, but we ask that students transfer their Medi-Cal coverage temporarily to Merced County instead of still having your Medi-Cal coverage down in another county. Sometimes that would mean that you would have to travel all the way down there to get some of that health coverage taken care of. And so we work really closely with you to make sure that that Medi-Cal coverage might happen up here in the Merced area. And so our county works closely with whatever county you would be transferring from, whether it's Riverside, LA County, Alameda County. We'd work with you and we'd help to transfer that Medi-Cal coverage to Merced County temporarily as a way to make sure that if you've got any health needs while you're in the area, your Medi-Cal coverage will actually help out and support that. But otherwise, if you've got insurance, go ahead and submit that insurance waiver and make sure that you waive out of that. Otherwise, feel free to continue to accept the university's insurance. The university has an incredible insurance program in place. It gets put on your student bill, and we actually then factor that in for cost of attendance. And based upon your financial aid package, you may be able to get financial aid that would cover that insurance coverage if you accept into the UC Merced insurance plan, which is actually part of the larger University of California insurance plan. All right, let's look to some more questions here. For first-year students, do you still provide housing due to the coronavirus? And yes, we will still be providing housing on campus, as I said. You know, with our brand new residence halls, we just opened up some buildings. I'm going to show a picture here before we wrap up of the campus because we just received last week all of our buildings that we've been working on. We built 13 buildings in the past 3.5 years. All of those are now part of the campus operation. And in that are new residence halls. And so those will be open up. But we may not, again, some of those might be set up that we could have 3 people in a room, or we could have 4 people in a room. We're really looking at reducing the number of students just to make sure that we're creating that safer environment. So it could be that some students might have a single room, or some students might have a triple room with just 2 people in it. All of that is part of what we will be looking at And we'll be making those appropriate adjustments around our room and board rates to make sure that because we are doing that for the health and safety, that doesn't put a undue financial burden on you all. So that will be really important as we move forward. So we will be open and we'll be ready to accept move-in. As Martin said, we're going to start that towards the middle of August and give students kind of a longer period of time to actually move in before classes start towards the end of August. There's another question, because the CSUs decided to do 100% online or remote. What are the UC's plans? We plan to do a hybrid. So there might be some courses that would be taught 100% remotely. Some courses that might physically still be in place. And we're all exploring those options to make sure that, again, the educational experience that you have as a student is the best educational experience possible. There are some classes sometimes that can be really hard to think about how you would do in a remote fashion, particularly some of our lab courses, whether that's in engineering or in biology or in psychology. We've got these experiences that sometimes can be difficult to do completely in an online format. As I shared earlier too, we've created a lot of smaller classes because we value that learning environment. So our hope is that even in the small 20-person classes that you might take in, the opportunity for you to still participate physically is going to be set up and structured so that students can have that experience of being engaged in discussion and dialogue with their peers. So we will be doing a hybrid model. And you know, in conversations with my colleague just down the road, Dr. Joe Castro, who's president of Fresno State, you know, while there is an announcement that they'll be doing 100% in remote, there will still be some of their experiences that they will be doing in person as well, particularly around labs and some of those experiences that are really difficult to think about how they might do remotely. So all of us are kind of still navigating through that and paying attention to how we will monitor those decisions as we continue to look at the overall health and safety of the campus and the surrounding community as well. Another question here, will we be able to go to orientation and tour the campus? I'm going to talk about tours, and Jonathan, if you could get ready to talk a little bit about what we're doing with orientation, that'd be awesome. We are getting ready to look at how we can promote drive-through tours and an opportunity for people to come up to Merced and drive through campus. And we've actually developed some guiding points that we can help you to navigate. We're even looking at putting little QR codes around the campus. So as you drive through, you could use your smart device and link to a QR code that would help inform you of what you're seeing and what you're looking at as you do that drive-through tour of the campus itself. And so as we get ready to move forward with that, we obviously are paying close attention to the governor's directives around stay-at-home orders and not wanting to violate some of those expectations that the governor has put out for us, as well as waiting until the county opens up a little bit more. We've gotten some directives as of kind of June 12th that we're going to start to open up some more parks and outdoor spaces. And so we're hoping with that new directive that we'll be able to open up the campus for folks to drive up and do a drive-through tour and to be able to experience the campus itself. As I said earlier, we're going to do orientation virtually. And Jonathan, if you want to touch a little bit on what students might be able to expect through that virtual online orientation experience.
Absolutely. So as Dr. Nies mentioned, orientation will be virtual. And in that experience, you all will get a chance to hear more about campus resources. You will be assigned an orientation leader, and you'll be able to meet in small groups, ask questions. You'll learn more about clubs and organizations on campus, other academic and personal resources. You'll learn more about our Bobcat Advising Center and able to really think about your courses for next year and really just have an opportunity to learn more about our community and ways to get involved and ways to ensure you're set up for success. So all of that will definitely happen during your virtual orientation, and you will be getting more information to come. Our first orientation session begins in 2 weeks, so we're really excited. As Dr. Nies also mentioned, the campus is working on kind of drive-by tours for you and your families and supporters to come and be able to experience our campus community before August. But Orientation will be very engaging. You will get a chance again to meet with new students and your peers, make friendships, and really start to engage with the community. There's already ways to engage through social media and Facebook and other platforms such as Instagram with your new peers. So if you do have questions, please do not hesitate to email our orientation team. As I see there are some questions, some individual questions.
Hey, Jonathan and Charles, I just wanted to mention that one of the questions we often get in housing and residence education is whether or not they have to put down a deposit prior to the start of the academic year. And at UC Merced, when you live on campus, you do not have to put down a deposit prior to coming to school in August. Your first payment is usually due the Wednesday before classes start. And that's when financial aid is dispersed. So this year, I think it's around August 19th, but that's when you'll make your first housing payment. So if you signed a housing contract, you don't need to do anything else except, go on, create your profile, try to find a roommate, and then eventually you're gonna get your room assignment, and then you'll get some instructions on the move-in process and your move-in day. And then you don't need to worry about making a housing deposit.
Great, thanks for that answer from both of you. There's also a question that came in. Even if I applied to live with my parents because I live close enough to campus, I still received a letter from admissions about living on campus and on campus housing. Is there a reason I got that, and who do I reach out to? So at UC Merced, we've actually done research around kind of student success and what helps to support our students. And one of the things that we discovered is students who live on campus feel more connected to the university, and sometimes that really helps them persist and graduate in a much more timely fashion. And so we did a program where we actually we're having students live on campus for their first 2 years, and that was a requirement. And so all students were required to do that. And if you lived close enough, then we allowed you to waive out of that. And so you could submit a waiver that would allow you to be exempted from that on-campus housing requirement. And so if you are living with family during the fall semester, we ask that you just submit that waiver as part of that process for us to know that you will be living with a family member, whether that is because you've decided to do that because that is the option that you want to embrace at this point in time, because that feels best for you at this moment, because you're not sure you really want to move to Merced because of everything that's happening with the pandemic, or because you live close enough and it doesn't make sense for you to live in our on-campus residence halls if you live just down the road. So there is a waiver process. It's on the housing website, and an opportunity for you just to let us know that that is your plan for the fall semester. So that would be the reason why, even if you live in Merced, we probably sent you a letter saying, hey, come live on campus. It's just because we wanted to have you be part of that campus community, but there's an opportunity for you to waive out of that. So feel free to fill that out and make sure that we get that information from you. There are a lot of questions about the price. And if we are putting you in a single room, because that is the safe place for you to be, and we can create the physical distance that we want to do, does that mean you're going to have to pay extra because you really wanted to live in a triple or a quad because the price is more reasonable? We're going to do those adjustments around the pricing to make sure that, again, because we've made that choice for your overall safe and well-being, that you don't pay that extra rate for living in a single room. So wanted to make sure that folks know that we will make that adjustment as we move forward. So we've talked a little bit already about quad rooms and entering roommates, so hopefully we got some of that information in. I think our concern with some of the triples and quad rooms is wanting to make sure that folks are in physical spaces that allow for that distancing. That will be important. As well as the other big thing that we're looking at, and while we are going to be doing extra cleaning and sanitizing of all of our physical spaces, some of our spaces are set up. There might be, a little group of 20 to 30 some students who would be sharing a bathroom on a floor. that might not be the best way for us to make sure that some of that distancing happens. And so it's going to be really important for us in those situations to reduce what would be normal occupancy in those spaces. And so that's where, even if we might have listed on the website that you could pick this quad or you could pick this triple, a good chance that we will be reducing those down to either doubles or singles. And that is all in our effort to create that distancing that will be important for our overall health and well-being of folks. Got another question here. If my child has already done roommate selection, can they change their roommates online other than contracting information? So how do they do that, Martin? If they've already submitted stuff and they want to change what they submitted, what is that process?
Yeah, so you have a few, yes, you still can make changes to your preferred roommate. You go back into the housing portal. The student will, again, there should be some choices, like they can deselect someone, and this happens all the time. Students change their minds, and all they do is go through the portal. If for some reason that doesn't work, you can email housing@ucmerced.edu and just say, I want to change my roommate selection. But the easiest way to do it is go into the housing portal and make the changes. And then what happens once we move in, usually around the 3rd or 4th week of the semester, we open up the process where students again can decide to change roommates if they choose to for whatever reason. But that would usually start around the 4th week of the semester.
Great, thanks, Martin. We're getting some questions around campus testing around COVID-19 and isolation and quarantine and all those different pieces that the campus is doing to look out for the health and safety. One of the brand new buildings that will be opening up, actually, it just got turned over to the campus this past week, and next month we'll be moving our health center into a brand new space. I bring that up because what that means is the current health center that will currently be vacant for the entire fall semester. And so we are working really closely with our colleagues at UC Davis and UC San Francisco medical centers to be able to create a testing site for our campus community. And it will be a space that for students, faculty, and staff to be tested. They'll go into a whole separate space so that they wouldn't actually be going into our main health center that would be working with and supporting our other students, and allow them to go into that space. We can take a sample, and then we'll work closely with UC San Francisco or UC Davis to send that sample there so that we can get a 24-hour turnaround time on that sample and be able to know whether or not the individual has tested positive. In the meantime, we will have spaces available in our residence halls for that student to be quarantined while they're waiting for the outcome of that testing result. The other thing that we're working closely with the Department of Health here in Merced County is a piece called contact tracing, and the opportunity to interview a student to see who else they might have interacted with so that we can also test those individuals and help make sure that we're getting information back from them about whether or not they've been exposed to the virus. If a student does test positive, then we will have isolation rooms, and I think Martin shared that earlier. We've set aside some spaces in our building and set aside from where other students are. These rooms and these spaces have their own private bathrooms and kind of own lounge spaces where students who have tested positive will be able to recover and get daily checkups, both from our health center as well as from other staff to make sure that they're doing okay. And then working closely with our dining center team to deliver food directly to the room so that the student will be able to stay in that space of isolation, have the resources they might need to participate in their classes, access to a laptop if they don't have one, access to a phone service if they don't have a phone, as well as delivery of food. And then at a minimum 3 to 4 times a day, we will check in with the student to see how they're doing and make sure that they're getting the support they need as they recover from the virus. So all of that is part of the way the campus is set up and structured, both the quarantine process around someone who is waiting for an outcome of a test, as well as the potential need to isolate an individual should they test positive. So all of that is what we've got set up and ready to go. A question is if there is a second wave of the virus and the cases continue to increase, will that affect in a way that the campus is going to stay closed or not? this point in time, part of what the health community is predicting that is if there is a second wave, that second wave might come as part of the flu season that typically that starts, at least in California and in the Central Valley, kind of around November, December, and into January. And that is when there could potentially be a second wave. So UC Merced is looking at how we might do final exam week differently than we have in the past. And so instead of having those final semester exams and those experiences here in person and in place, might be the way that we conduct the end of the semester. We would do that virtually and do the final exam week remotely. So students would actually have an opportunity to leave the campus earlier in December and return back to family or to other friends off campus and be able to finish out this semester not physically on the campus. And that would be a way for us to kind of minimize the potential impact of a second wave on the campus so that we can then make sure that we sanitize the entire campus and make sure the campus is ready to go and can open back up in the end of January for the spring semester. So scheduling of our classes is part of what we are looking into and considering as a way to help potentially mitigate the impact of a second wave. So all of that is part of the modeling that we are doing on campus. Again, we're fortunate to not only have incredible experts in the health arena as part of the University of California, but right here on our own campus, we have several faculty that do kind of predictive modeling. That is their area of expertise. And they've actually been tapped into and are using their expertise across the state of California to help to do some of that predictive modeling to make sure that the spaces we have available, the way that we would be responding to a second wave, all is built upon some predictive modeling, working closely with folks in public health, as well as our faculty here on the campus. So, so all of that is kind of how we're hoping to move forward. We've got another question here. I know I've missed the placement test. I get placed into preparatory classes, but is there anything I can do now to make sure that the classes I take are the best classes for me? It's a great question. In fact, there's a lot of conversations around placement tests, as well as even the opportunity for students to have done so because of the remote environment that happened during the remainder of your high school experience. So what we've done is we're looking at we'll look at transcripts and the information that comes in July. And so all of your transcripts are due to the university in July. And so it might be at this point in time that we advise you to, for example, take pre-calculus instead of calculus based upon kind of the information we have currently. That doesn't mean then that later on over the summer, as we have your transcript and final grades come in, we can't make those adjustments and put you into the classes that best suits your needs. Excuse me. So that is where working with your academic advisor becomes really important. And they will look at kind of your experiences with math, for example, or with writing, which is our two areas of some of our biggest placement tests. And they'll look at your past history on your transcripts and work with you to make sure that we're putting you in those experiences that make the most sense. So hopefully that answers that question. When can students change their major? That is a process that you do with your academic advisor, and it's an online form that you fill out to request a major change. We know that is a common practice. I think at one point in time I read that on average, students change their major 6 to 7 times. That isn't the case at UC Merced. It's a far fewer than that, but we know that you come to campus and you discover that maybe that program of study wasn't what you had anticipated, and so you want to change your major, or you explore a career option that is different. We've had some students that really wanted to go to medical school, and they had the opportunity to do an internship at our emergency room, and they saw the sight of blood and realized, this might not be the right path for me. And so our career center on campus actually helps students think about where they want to go after they graduate and what they want to do, and then help you think about a program of study or a major that would support that. And so know that there are a lot of resources for you to really explore what that academic program might look like, as well as I think a lot of people would be surprised at what you can study as an undergraduate degree and where that might take you for your career. Recently, about 50% of all the students that were admitted into medical school actually were not science majors. They were in the social sciences, and particularly psychology. So a lot of times people think they might have to be a biology major in order to go to medical school. And we're just discovering that there are a lot of different pathways to some of those careers. And so really spending some time talking with your academic advisor, as well as our team and our career center, can help you think about which ways you want to go and how you want to move that forward. All right. So the question here, and just to reiterate and support this, if a first-year student doesn't feel comfortable coming for the first semester, will they have the opportunity to take classes remotely and stay at home? We want to support your choices to make that educational journey that is best for you and support student success. That is a priority at UC Merced. It is across the campus that we talk about this from our faculty, our staff, and all of the support services at the university. Your success is critical. And if you feel that making a decision to stay at home makes the most sense for you, we will support that decision and find ways for you to choose those courses for the fall semester that both help you advance your educational degree pathway, as well as offer that opportunity for you to participate 100% remote. Again, as I said, we would love for you to join us on campus and to move in, but we recognize that, and we know that those are choices that individuals would make, particularly for the fall semester. As I said earlier, we also have made a commitment that if you choose to not be on campus in the fall, but you want to join us for the spring semester, we will make it a priority to find you housing and allow you to move into our campus residence halls. We are making a priority for our on-campus housing for the fall semester to our first-year students, and we'll continue that priority throughout the spring semester as well. We also have a population of students that we work really closely with to make sure that we are meeting some of those housing-related needs. And so our foster youth and former foster youth, we want to make sure that we provide secure housing for those individuals if that is something that they need. And so please let us know and work with our Guardian Scholars program that supports our foster and former foster youth here on campus to make sure that we are providing you with that year-round housing that becomes a really important element for your success here as we move forward. We want to make sure that we are looking at and creating spaces on campus for students that might be housing insecure, to make sure that that is not something they need to worry about, and that on-campus housing will be provided for them to make sure that that is not a worry or a stress as they move forward in their journey here at UC Merced. I know that we've got a lot of questions that have come up, and we might not have a chance, as we're getting close to the end of our time together, to answer all of these questions. Our hope is that we'll be able to, actually, it's not my hope, we've recorded this, so that's another opportunity for folks to go back and get this information. But we also will circle back to some of those questions that have been submitted so that we can answer your questions directly. And that will become a really important opportunity for you to make sure that we are answering those questions that you have, that you've submitted. Here we have over 265 questions that have come in, and we clearly didn't get to all of those. And so we will make sure that we are doing what we can to answer those questions. Hopefully you've heard a little bit that we're taking all of the precautions necessary to make sure that physical distancing is part of that experience for your health and safety. We want to make sure that we don't confuse physical distancing with social isolation. And so it's really important for us that we're finding ways for you to connect with your peers and to connect with the university environment. And that might be that happens remote, but a lot of our programs and services will still reach out to you and make sure that we are providing you with the resources so that you can be successful here at the university. All of that is part of our priority. We just looked at a whole listing of signs that we'll be posting throughout the campus to make sure that we are reminding folks about physical distance, and to make sure that we don't have too many people that might be using a restroom, or that you're not standing too close in line as you are getting your food or getting your coffee at our Lantern Cafe. All of that is part of the efforts that we will be doing to make sure that we're reminding you of how we are in this together. And we as a collective campus community will work collectively to make sure that the campus is safe and that everybody's health and well-being is taken into account. And we work on this together, and we do this collectively. we are sure that you will have that wonderful collegiate experience that you have dreamed of and you have thought about. And so we're looking forward to you joining us, however that transpires for you as we move forward and we look at the fall semester. Super excited again that you are part of the UC Merced family and have decided to be a part of everything that we are doing. As I said earlier, we just wrapped up kind of this experience of constructing 13 new buildings on the campus in just a few years. It's been an exciting journey and a journey that I want to share a little bit with you as we can look at what the campus currently looks like. This is a recent picture that was just taken this past week, an area view of our campus as we look forward to welcome you and being part of the UC Merced experience and the UC Merced journey. A lot of our continuing students are super excited because down here you can see we now have a pool. We've waited a long time for that competition swimming pool, as well as our new residence hall spaces, our new outdoor courts for both basketball and tennis, our brand new research facilities where faculty are working diligently already to help come up with different ways to address the coronavirus and other different ways that we are addressing some of the medical needs of our surrounding community. All of that is part of the UC Merced experience and the UC Merced journey. But at the heart of it, as Jonathan mentioned earlier, we are a community, and a community that is really grounded in the ways that we support each other, we care for each other, and collectively, we will work together to make sure that UC Merced continues to do great work in supporting your success. And we welcome you to the UC Merced Bobcat family and look forward to greeting you physically on our campus when that time comes. So take care. Thanks for taking time out on this Wednesday evening, and have an incredible evening, and looking forward to those of you as you join us virtually for orientation experiences starting at the end of this month. And see you at UC Merced in the fall.